So hey guys, I want to thank you for taking some time today to meet with me on your precious Red Run stream. It's a beautiful place to fish, and I fished with Jerry last week for steelhead, or 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
And he got me all excited about the fishing, but something else he got me more excited about is the fact that you two have done a lot of schools together, trying to bring novice to a higher level, and even experts to give them more education, right? And what intrigued me is when he said, well, my buddy Steve that I guide with takes a scientific approach, and he'll show you the pH balance of the stream and do a saturated oxygen test and so on and so forth. And that's what we're going to do today for the audience. But before we do that, if you'd take a few minutes and just give me a little bit of your background, both from your business career and also then your fishing experience and whatever.
I taught environmental education and biology and entomology in Mercersburg up near Whitetail Resort there, Mercersburg and James Buchanan High School. For I guess 33 years.
Wow. And
one of my favorite courses was, I did an AP class in entomology, stream ecology. That's kind of how I got into this deal with the fly fishing too. And of course, I fished this area in this whole area here in the Cumberland Valley for since I was probably 8-9 years old. Jerry and I fished together for years, places like Horse Valley and all.
That was about 15 years ago, was it?
Yeah, 15, 15 or 50, one of them other. And we fished for years together, and so we've been in this business quite a while. One time I counted up, I think there's 26 streams in this area we can fish. And of course, the Cumberland Valley is one of the top places in the Northeast for wild brown trout in the Northeast. It goes from Mossy Creek in Virginia, say down in that area, the limestone areas, up to really mid Pennsylvania, Penn State area, Penns Creek, and all that's something like that. Lancaster has a lot of good limestone streams, and water and springs, but the pollution out there, the farming is what kills it out there. And
right.
Lehigh is it? Yeah. Florida has some beautiful limestone streams, but they got one other problem, and which is something I'll do for you here in a little bit. They don't have the temperature that we got.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This temperature coming out of these springs here, these limestone springs. There's 8 of them here on this Red Run, basically.
Wow.
There's 8 of them from down where it runs into the big Antietam up to the top of the mountain. Some of them are just little seeps, but some of them are big springs too.
Well, I noticed there's a crest farm where we pulled in,
there's
which
a commercial
crest farm, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And
when they harvest that, they turn a lot of
So
good food loose for.
Yeah, sure, I'll bet.
It's not the prettiest, but it makes it kind of muddy. But
well, would you call that a major chumming exercise when they harvest the watercress?
Yeah. It's amazing to watch them do that. They do it all in a couple of days though, and it's all over.
It's all over, but I assume you guys lock the stream up for yourself and come here and fish a little bit.
Yeah.
So why don't you take a second and explain to me, the importance of pH to trout?
Yeah.
Or for that matter, any fish.
Yeah, right. Well, on these streams, pH is a very major factor, and that limestone. These basically are mostly composite streams. Like here, this stream is more like a freestone stream. And one of the things I always teach, and you'd be amazed the amount of people that do not realize the difference between a freestone and a limestone. And we go over that quite a bit in our classes. And no, I have no idea. I said, well, in the Cumberland Valley here, we can take you to a pretty much limestone spring creek. 3% of the fly fishermen in America have fished 100% limestoner, spring creek. Another name for it over in Europe, chalk stream.
Chalk stream,
Yeah.
right.
3%. Now we're talking about though the Trout, the Falling Spring,
Right.
Big Spring, and that.
All the famous
And there's
chalk
a
streams of the
yeah,
U.S. right.
and there's a reason why, of course, not too many people fish them. You know, they're very difficult fishing. You catch 3 fish there a day. You know, the guides out of down at the Boiling Springs area there, they catch 3 or 4 wild browns like we've been catching all day.
Right.
They've had a great day.
Right.
Where
Right.
here in these composite streams, bigger streams, you know, there's a lot more possibility of catching bigger fish and a lot more fish, and they're not as well trained.
Right. Right.
It's it's cloudier water in most cases and that. So and these streams, this stream here, Red Run, is a complete nursery for wild brown trout. It's just amazing stream.
Point of that is that part of the game of fishing is dialing it in
Yeah.
and understand the various variables.
Right.
And one of the things that you're doing here with the entomology is dependent, the amount of biomass is dependent on the quality of the water.
Right. Exactly.
And so your tests here
Yeah.
are part of looking
Right.
at the indication of what the quality of the water is. And therefore, if you have good quality water, you normally have good biomass. If you have good biomass, you
Yeah.
have really good fishing.
Right. You got good
And,
plant life. You got good macros, and that's what the big trout feed on all year long. Yeah. And temperature. Temperature is the one of the major physical factors. Yeah. And because temperature, pH is always going to be here. In the limestone area, pH is there. It's going to be 8 most of the year. If you get a heavy rain, heavy thunderstorm in here and puts that up a little bit, that is acid rain in this area. We know that it's going to put it down to 7, but that's still good. And the next day it's going to probably be back up again to 8.
Right.
But no problem. So the temperature, and of course the temperature is the main variable here, the big factor, and volume, but that has to do with the volume does affect the temperature. And of course, as the temperature goes up, the DO goes down. That's the key factor right there. And you cannot fight fish like we're fighting down there. There's big browns in temperature.
Just for the people watching, the DO is dissolved oxygen.
Dissolved oxygen.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is it the amount of oxygen, or because I'll tell you something I've heard, and I just don't know this.
Yeah.
I was told that in warmer temperatures, that there is oxygen in the water, but the oxygen molecule gets larger, and therefore it can't go through the gills of a trout. Is there any truth in that, do you know of, or is that something that we should?
No, what happens is the warmer water, it just leaves the water.
It just leaves.
Yeah, it just leaves the water and it drops. It's measured in parts per million.
Got it.
Yeah.
So warm water fish, then I'm assuming, just don't need as much oxygen.
Right.
And trout require.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do a reading here, and basically the DO reading runs from 0 to 14, just about like your pH. You know, mostly 3 to most. The ones I have here are just like 4.0 to 10, but anything below 4.0, you won't want to stick your finger in it. You know, I mean, that's pretty acid. That's like, well, it's not that bad, but it's not like battery acid, but 3.0 or something. And I'll tell you, and also anything over a 10 is alkaline, and that's just as bad. But you don't have that in nature very much.
Right.
You don't have below 4 in nature much.
Right.
So these kits we use are just like 4 to 10. So
As I understand, acid rain,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, that was in all of our magazines that we read, and kind of the topic is that the coal-fired plants, whether they were producing electricity or whatever they were burning it for, was pushing high sulfur fumes into the air, which would then meet with water and create H2SO4, which is acid.
Right.
And then it would come into a stream that couldn't neutralize itself.
Right.
Okay. And hit the stream,
Yeah.
come down, kill everything,
Uh-huh.
and then flush out of the system. So someone would come along and do a test on it, and it's no longer there because it either diluted out or
Yeah.
went down the system. And it was a big problem. And then, as I understand, like in upstate New York, a lot of their brook trout lakes became sterile
Mm-hmm.
for the same reason. And then they came back and they limed them, which basically
Right.
brings the acid under control. And they brought a lot of their lakes back. Am I correct in all of that?
Yep, they dose them.
Yeah, yeah.
They do that over in Europe a lot too. They dose them.
Right.
Put limestone in.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, I heard the Potomac, like the West Branch, they do a limestone slurry
They
every
do.
once in a while,
Yep.
and
West
bug
Branch.
life there is pretty high.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
good.
the West Branch.
Well, let's
Yeah.
let's explain the tester real quick. What are you
Yeah.
going to do first? So you can do temperature first, or
Yeah, I'll do a temperature first. I'll just take a temperature reading and
and trout.
yeah. Okay, trout. We normally say, well, the range for trout is like 48 to 68. And the good trout fishing is in between there.
Right.
58. I've caught a lot. It depends, some good trout fishing can be up pretty close to 68, but you get over 68, 9, you're getting into the oxygen starts to be getting low in those streams that have that. And and here, this stream, of course, it never freezes over. The springs are oriented, and it's 54 degrees. The water coming in from these springs is basically 54 that you see up there at the road and all.
Which is pretty perfect.
Yeah, that's pretty perfect. And that's year round. Yeah.
Well, prove it to me.
Now, what temperature is that?
What temperature is?
What temperature is that?
I'm not following.
Yeah. Why is it 54?
Well, because it's coming out of the ground,
Yeah.
and the ground is 54 degrees. If you go into a mine or a cave or
Right.
whatever, it's pretty constant at 54 degrees.
And that temperature is a year-round average temperature here.
Right.
So we're in a perfect area for that.
I mean, he's in heating and cooling. He's an architectural engineer.
Oh, okay. You
and
probably, yeah.
a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff they do, especially for residential, is
Yeah.
thermal.
Yeah.
So what do they
Thermal
do?
energy.
They
Oh man, that's the newest one, isn't it?
bury pipes in the ground.
Yeah.
And
So in other words, when you pump that out of the ground, you're starting at 54 degrees. So
Right.
you don't have to, you don't have to warm it up from there.
right.
Right. I mean, that gives you the advantage.
Well,
Yeah.
you're a fisherman, so I don't believe you that it's 54 degrees. So
No.
go up there and measure that
no,
water for me.
no, it's not 54.
It's not. What
No,
is it?
now, if I go to a spring, it is.
Oh, I got it. I
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the sun's hit it.
And this is below
Yeah.
54 in the winter, too. See? But at the springs,
At the
That-
spring,
that's what
where
keeps
at
it.
the source where it comes out,
Yeah.
it's going to be 54,
Right.
and then the environment
Yeah.
somewhere down from that
Right.
will impact it to some
exactly. So it's warming
Got it.
up now. Now, in the it can be probably in the low 40s.
degree. Yep. 38, 40.
Yeah, 38
yeah.
to 40. But it's not freezing.
So
And
I
the
mean,
fish are very
I
slick.
do a lot of Great Lakes steelhead fishing,
Yeah.
and when you start forming slush on the surface,
Yeah.
it's time to go home.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
sit by
we-
the fireplace.
You don't see that very often at all here. We've been down here in the winter. We don't fish in the winter, but we've seen it. It's pretty cold, but yeah.
Well, let's let's do
54.
this right here.
Yeah.
Don't fall down the bank
Okay.
and go down there and
I'll go up here and read it.
okay. So as he's doing that, what I'm hoping to accomplish here for the people that'll watch this is just to give them a little bit of background as to the importance of the,
The
basic.
thing that we, in doing schools, why we like to show this, it actually shows them the actual, chemistry and the biological things about the stream. The key is when you understand these, and then you pull up a rock like we did on the stream yesterday, and you see all this insect life, that is telling you why this is such quality water.
That's why you're catching fish right there. It's perfect. 58 to 60, 64, 65, that's perfect temperature.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So 62.2.
62.2, yep.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, that's a perfect temperature for now, and
Yep.
and that's pretty much be the whole way through. Yeah, I didn't check it down on in Tatum. It'd probably be in the 60s down there too. Yeah. So that's, you know, for fishing, that's perfect temperature, and
it's good for catch and release fishing.
Yeah.
You
yeah, you're not
catch
close.
fish, put them back,
Yeah.
and everything's good.
Yeah, 67, 68 even is good, but there you got to start watching. Yeah, you don't want to get them out of the water too long, you know.
Right.
You don't want to do that anytime, but yeah, at that temperature. But and then below that 48, their metabolism is just too slow to have good fishing. You'll catch some. Now steelhead are different, I'm sure, on that.
No, they get locked. I mean, you catch them
Around 40
You
degrees.
got to throw the fly right in their
right
face
in their
to
mouth.
get them to eat.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's just there's so many of them in some
Yeah.
of these small streams
Yeah.
that you can get it in front of them
Right.
and catch them.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little more when I do the oxygen test here, but that should give me a pretty good reading. 10 would be a super good reading, parts per million. 12 would be extra good. You might get a 12 reading sometimes here when the water's a little cooler than that. And when the water gets up around 70, you'll see that oxygen will really fall back. And we've done it here, and the oxygen is lower. 0 to about 4, you know, fish like carp, catfish that you can throw in the bank for 2 hours and put them back and they'll live.
Yeah.
They'll live in water like that.
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 parts per million is smallmouth or largemouth bass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they'll live in that kind of water. Under 4 even.
Mm-hmm.
Smallmouth bass 5 and 6 parts per million. Trout is 6. They can't live in below 6 very long.
Right.
6, 7 parts per million.
Mm-hmm.
10 is real good. You know. So dissolved oxygen, then pH doesn't change hardly at all. Dissolved oxygen, of course, will change daily.
So,
and temperature will change daily, and that's why fishing changes daily.
well, I get it. So here's the question. Now we have this nice riffle coming down right here. How does oxygen dissolve into the water? Does it by aerating?
Oh yeah, aeration.
Okay, so riffles
Yep.
are good for putting oxygen into the
my.
water.
Yep.
And you know, I've noticed, like even in steelhead fishing in the early part of the year, the chrome will push the chromers, they're the fresh ones,
Right.
will push right up into the head of the pool where the oxygen is at.
Okay.
The other fish that are back in the pool almost kind of go to sleep because I don't think they're getting enough oxygen.
Okay.
Now, I don't know this, but it's an observation that I've made. And sometimes you take a big rock and throw it in the pool. Boom. Kurt, who's back down here fishing, he'll wade right through the middle of the pool and stir him up and then come back in 5 minutes, catch him.
I've seen you guys
You know,
do that up
so
there. Yeah.
I think it has to do with the amount of oxygen. I mean, I know.
Kind of goes against our trout fishing here. And
Well, yeah, you know, yeah. No, I'm going to wait for you to set up, and I'm going to stomp through your pool for you.
yeah, all right. Okay, come back in 5 minutes. Yeah, right.
Yeah, just I hope you're not carrying a gun on you.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm just trying to get out on the table so people understand.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do here? You're going to go collect a little bit of water.
I'll do a pH. It's very simple.
Okay.
And we'll do a pH first here and see what we get.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you know, I've read a lot about all of the environmental conditions and whatever, but I've never actually done the test. I'm glad to be doing this with somebody that actually knows how to do it. You know, I took chemistry a long time ago, and then I forgot all of it. So
Now, what is interesting about basically these limestoners and composite is in my years in fishing in the West and your years of fishing in the West, you actually have the same situation. When you look at Yellowstone National Park, one of the main things is thermal features. Well, what's happening with thermal features is that heated water is literally percolating limestone through the system. So the limestone from the thermal features is what makes so much of Yellowstone's fishing so productive. Up
I
in the
didn't know
Ruby
that.
Valley, where I guided for years, once again, it's a composite stream, but we have all kinds of little limestone springs coming in, and this increase in the pH because of limestone. It's just like, what do you do every spring to your lawn to sweeten your lawn up to make it grow nicer? People put lime on it.
lime. What do you do for clover field? You put lime.
Yeah.
It brings clover out like
If
crazy.
you have acid indigestion, what
Yeah.
do you take? You take bufferin, which is basically to improve your pH.
Calcium carbonate. Tums.
Tums.
Tums for the stomach. That's the same thing as limestone.
Yep.
And see, when all these plants, all this soil and all is limestone. So when you have a rain, it runs off. It automatically turns. We don't have any problem here with acid rain
Yeah.
at all. Acid snow. Acid snow. I've heard of. There was a couple of fish kills. They stalked trout remember up at Counts Gap, they stalked trout, and there was a big snow mass up in the mountain, and they stalked them from the nursery, which is mostly alkaline.
Right.
And the next day it got like this,
Yeah.
big flush of snow water, and it dropped the acid, even though they were brook trout, they were brook trout, but they were used to that alkaline, and it killed them all. Yeah. All right, we'll see what happens here. If we get this is a neutral here. If you get 7, there's 7-0. That means this kind of green stuff here, it will stay greenish. But if
So
it goes to blue, that's what we want. If it goes to a salmon color, then we are looking at acid. Okay, so we probably want this to turn a little bit on the bluish side instead of green. See what happens. Almost guaranteed.
Show that for the
Yeah.
camera.
And we can make a little more specific reading. Turn the wheel here. Put on 7. You see, if it was neutral water, it would be green. Okay, now turn the wheel
2, 7.
to.
Oh, I see. It's another. What's it?
This is your sample here. Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what am I trying
You're
to get it? to
you're
be this-
comparing the colors.
I'm trying to get it to.
What do you get?
I get 8.5.
8.5.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if you can see that in that camera right there, but so this
Probably
wheel
not.
is moving the colors. Can you see that on there, Connor? And then there's a number reading down here. So that's the sample. You're bringing it in, and I'm going to dial it in here, right there. Does that match? That's really interesting. So
Now, do you have a lemon? I should have brought a lemon along.
we should have brought a lemon, and if you
Yeah.
put a lemon in, it'll change that.
If I squeeze a little lemon in there, turn pink.
Got it.
That's as simple as that. Yep.
So
Yeah, we're looking at 62.2, which is like perfect for May, I'd say. Temperature and pH of 8 to 8.5. Yeah, which is pretty much standard here all year round. I've done this for we've worked here for a long time, huh, Jerry?
Probably 16, 17
Yeah,
years.
yeah. We've had this school for 23 years. We had it some other places, but it hadn't changed at all.
Let's take a commercial break here for a second. I see you work for Antietam Outfitters Fly Fishing. Why don't you guys take a few minutes and tell everybody, about your guide service and what you have, and then we'll get into the next test.
Well,
we have some interesting water here. We have this Red Run, which is a major tributary to the east branch of Antietam Creek, and these streams have always been known as good trout streams, but they're relatively unknown by a lot of people in fly fishing circles, even though the history here goes way, way back. As you can see by these tests, we have a great little fishery here, and this is a tremendous nursery water for wild brown trout that have been here since the late 1800s when they were originally stocked. The east branch of Antietam, upstream from where Red Run enters, is not the quality of water of the downstream section, and the whole reason is this right in front of us, Red Run, and this quality water with the high pH, the dissolved oxygen and everything, that creates a great fishery. Now, what is interesting about Antietam is most people think, when they hear Antietam, they think of Antietam battlefield, where one of the major battles during the Civil War occurred. And that is the same Antietam. There's two branches, the west branch and the east branch. But this east branch that we are on has basically been historically a quality brown trout fishery. And anyone that does any looking back at the history of fly fishing, and both in the east and also particularly Montana, are going to hear the name Joe Brooks.
Joe Brooks.
Joe Brooks grew up in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. And Joe Brooks, basically, these were his home waters where he learned to fish. Now, what is really interesting is he became very famous as a writer. Also wrote many books on fly fishing, fished all over the world. He also made Montana the place it is today in bringing fly fishing to Montana. One of his fishing buddies was a guy by the name of Dan Bailey, who was a nuclear engineer that gave up nuclear engineering to start a fly fishing business in Livingston, Montana. And those two gentlemen, basically on the Yellowstone River, created what now has become the famous fishery for fly fishermen in all of southwest Montana and the Yellowstone Park area. Back to this water, we were able, luckily enough, many years ago, Steve and I were able to basically, with the owners of the Antietam section of this stream, to create Antietam Outfitters. And we offer guiding to the general public, and the unique thing about it is we put people on here where, when they're on here, this water is theirs for that specific day when we guide them. They have no competition, it's their water to fish. The other unique thing that we like to express about this, that this water originally was always private, owned by people just exclusively for that use of them and their friends. But now, even though it's still private, we offer it to the general population. People appreciate a quality stream and the opportunity to come down here and catch wild browns, occasional wild rainbow, and there are some stock rainbows in the system. Occasional brook trout, but we feel we have something that's very unique, and along with the quality water, we have, as we have shown you, a great insect base for these fish to survive on. So we have great hatches. You can fish with crest bugs when there's no hatches on, big streamers. So we offer it all, and we're sort of easy going at this. And
so I have a question. You have a website?
Yes, we have a website.
And what's the URL for the website?
It's www.antietamoutfitters.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
And how do you spell Antietam for people?
Yeah, Antietam.
Okay, there you go. I'd like to get back to the science now, if we can. So, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to book this trip, I'll throw the URL up on screen for you, and please feel free to contact them and come have a good time. So now we're going to do the actual pH test.
This is DO test. Dissolved,
Oh,
dissolved
I'm sorry, the
oxygen.
dissolved
Yeah,
oxygen
this
test?
is a dissolved oxygen test that we'll do here. I'll go down and get a sample here. I'll get down in the water and down in the water column. I want to get in the water column, and you want to plug it, and you don't want any bubbles in it. If you get too many air bubbles from the air, you can mess it up a little bit.
I got it. Okay.
So I'll do that. You'll see me do that. And this is a test you have to do before this warms up. You don't want to sit here and hold it and talk a lot, because if that warms up, when I open this up to put the reactants in it, it's going to mess it up.
So I can't talk to it either because I'm full of hot air according to
Oh,
my wife.
okay.
So I'll make it too warm too. Yeah. But
All right,
yeah,
we'll try it.
Okay, well let's do that. Yeah, so I'll cover the fishing here for a few minutes and give you my experience. Although I didn't catch any of the big browns, I saw a couple really, really nice brown trout caught today.
You haven't caught any yet.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead.
I will. I'm confident of that. But I caught a lot of rainbows today, and I was told this is a brown trout fishery. So but I know how that works too. Yeah, so the fishing is really good bug life. It's what fly fishing is all about. And here we go with the oxygen test now.
Okay.
So what are we doing here? What is this?
Okay, these are the reactants that set the oxygen in it, and then we're going to do what we do a titration test. I'll explain that as we get to it. So this part here we have to do fairly quick. It's not getting too much oxygen, of course, from just this, but these can be a little hard to get off sometimes. And this will set the oxygen. After I do this part, then you don't have to worry about, it's going to be set. So these little packets are kind of tricky to get.
Kind of like tying 7X on, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I wear these magnifiers anymore. I can't fish without them.
Yeah. Okay. That's the one reactant, and there's two reactants go in it. I just put that one in. Now you're going to see a precipitate. And that's what we're trying to form. Precipitate. In other words,
I see it.
that's the oxygen. Alright. I'll try to do this without too much air bubble. Alright. Now, if this was clear, we'd be in trouble. And more mud would be in worse trouble.
Yeah.
That Kirk just hooked. But as you see, we pretty much know that Maud's not in big trouble.
No, Maud had a lot of spunk. Had more spunk than the guy fighting it. I can tell you.
Yeah. All right. So that's the precipitate we use, and really from now on you don't really have to worry about your handling it too much. It's not gonna. But we still you still want to do the test before it warms up. Now, the more yellow this is, the better it is. Higher oxygen. Okay. I'm going to guess around 10 parts per million.
You've done this before.
Yeah.
I say 10.5.
Okay. Yeah. What we do, leave that settle. And so, what puts oxygen in the stream? You mentioned it a while ago.
Yeah, aeration.
One of the big things is riffles,
Right.
fast water riffles.
Right.
Yeah, volume. The more volume, when the water gets low, it gets warmer, and that's when oxygen goes down. So volume is a factor, and that has something to do with the riffles too. The more you get more riffles and jack dams and things like this help. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else puts oxygen in there? Would you know?
Rain, maybe? No?
Not so much. It can. Yeah. Rain
Okay.
can. Yeah. It depends. Okay.
Plant life? I don't know.
Definitely green plants.
Okay.
Oxygen from green plants.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to
That was
be.
a good guess
You got
on
to
my
be.
part.
You got to be plus so far. Okay. Yeah, that's a big things. Okay. And all right. Now that water coming out of those springs is 54 degrees, right? These springs going in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think the oxygen is in that water?
Actually, probably pretty low, right? No?
Yeah.
Is it low?
Yeah. Yeah, now you realize only 1 in 10 people get that right. Answer that right. Most people say, well, it's cold. It's going to be high. No, groundwater is not.
Right.
Has very little oxygen. So it's all this oxygen is picked up after it hits the surface in these streams.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why it's important to roll it down over this and that, and that and that. So. And of course,
So my son got straight A's all the time, but
yeah.
I said, look, I got B's.
You're-
Okay,
you're-
I was a fisherman. I
Yeah,
got
you're
B's.
doing pretty good so far. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty low. It's pretty low coming out of there. 0, maybe not 0, but close. Yeah. Boiling springs down there. High nitrogen.
So
high
is that why you
nitrogen.
don't see a lot of fish up into the source where it comes
Exactly.
out of the...
Exactly. And a lot of things too. It causes high nitrogen
Got
coming
it.
out of the ground. It's high nitrogen and low oxygen. It causes their eyes to bulge. Yeah. They tried stalking the stream down there at Boiling Springs, and the eyes bulged on them.
That's
It
crazy.
didn't hurt them. I mean, it didn't kill them. I don't know. All right, we're about ready. We'll put this little acid in it and dissolve that, and that's going to make a nice yellow color. And then we're going to titrate that. Okay, that's what we'll do next. Okay. All right. What puts oxygen in a lake then? There's another question.
Puts oxygen on the
Yeah,
lake.
and because lakes have to have oxygen, and down deep they don't have much oxygen.
Right, they don't.
So a lot of it's coming in from the surface, being absorbed from the surface,
Wave action.
wave action, and green plants. Again,
Yeah.
all the green plants around the lake is good.
Got it.
Yeah. What takes oxygen out of the water? Just the opposite, right?
Right.
Mainly heat, mainly warm, mainly too warm. Low volume,
How about decay? When
decay is big. Yeah.
So isn't like when they have those void spots in the Great Lakes and
Yeah.
there's an algae bloom,
Yep.
it blooms,
Yep.
it
Yeah.
dies, goes
Yeah.
to the bottom,
Yeah.
sucks
Yeah.
the oxygen
Right.
out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which
The algae bloom puts it in, but what happens in algae bloom?
when it
It dies.
when it dies,
And then your decomposition.
so you got a cycle, right?
Yeah, and decomposition is really bad then. That's really bad. That takes a lot of oxygen out, and of course that's exactly right. And that's what happens to lakes a lot of times. Decomposition from algae blooms. Too much nutrient, too much phosphate and nitrate makes an algae bloom, and then that continues. All right, here we go. We're going to put this in. We'll dissolve this and see what happens. And then we'll titrate it. I'll show you what titration is. This stuff's packed up pretty good. Okay, this is just a little acid lake to dissolve it. Okay. Yeah. Really high oxygen. Really high oxygen today. That was a light yellow.
So I think I'm going to win this, right? You said
Yeah, you might.
I'm a half a
You might.
half a point ahead of you.
Anybody
here.
want anybody bidding on 12? I think I changed my mind. I'm going to 12.
Okay. Yeah, that's already turning really yellow.
So, I tell people now, if this is pretty, like, and you're taking a lot of vitamin C and you pee,
Yeah.
then you got good oxygen.
Well, to me, it looks like a bottle of perfume. I mean,
So we do all that for this. This is just a measured amount. That's just what you do to titrate. The rest of that's wasted, very much. So this is sodium thiosulfate, and that's a titration agent. And all that does is dissolve the color. Each drop is worth 1 part per million. Okay?
mm-hmm.
And I can only count to 5 because I only got one hand here. The other hand I got to hold the bottom.
Okay.
So it might be over 5. Okay, let's see. All right, you guys count them too. Okay, here. 1. Okay, 2, 3. Okay, catfish and carp could live in it, right?
Yeah,
we're good. Okay, 4.
4.
Yeah, largemouth bass, right? Yep. Okay. 5. Okay, smallmouth bass could live. This would be, if you're doing the Susquehanna River right now, it'd be white, be clear.
Yep.
Probably. Not saying. How many was that? That was 6. 5.
5.
Okay. One more, and we're looking at trout water. Okay, I believe trout.
Show it to camera.
Trout are going to live, right?
Yep.
6, 7. Now we're into bonus points. Bonus points for trout. 7, 8 is really good for trout. 8 is good for trout. And in the summertime here, when this water is 68, 69, it would be clear at 8.
Well,
That's the reason. That's the reason why. And if it's 70 or higher, it would be clear a couple drops ago.
oh, yeah, I got it. Okay.
Got it?
I got it, yeah.
Okay. How many was that? 8.
8.
Okay. 9.
9.
And it looks like,
Still not clear
yeah,
yet.
see there?
Yeah, you're going to be at 10.
If I was staying, that would have cost you a Bud Light.
Yeah, well, I only drink Heineken, and so you're going to...
Oh, there you go.
There you go. It's
That's
clear.
probably clear.
That's pretty clear.
That was about 10, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 10.
Okay, guys. That's it. Very
That's it.
good.
So that
So-
really is very interesting.
That's-
And so,
And that's,
do you know this? Your agencies, state agencies, fisheries people, are they doing these types of tests on streams?
Yes, they
or
are.
the EPA, or,
yeah. Yeah, they do all this with electronic equipment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
Right.
they stick a wand down. It's just DO, pH, alkalinity.
Yeah.
They do it for shocking.
Mhm.
They do the amount of solids in there, which I don't do the solids. They
Right.
do nitrates.
Mhm.
They do all that, Yeah, and they have high tech equipment to do that. Now, and that is what those factors they get working all spring and summer is what they use to designate streams as delayed harvest, particularly
Mhm.
delayed harvest. If this is not up to par, DO.
Right. Right.
And temperature, and catch and release, and that but particularly delayed harvesting.
So those streams that can sustain the fish all season long
Mhm.
is how they do their designation for.
Yep.
And then the delayed harvest
Yeah.
is based on temperatures are getting too warm and
Right, and the DO
mid-July
getting too low.
and beyond.
Very
Yes.
important is the DO that they check.
Now
They
there-
check the DO in July in Big Cove, and they find it is 4 parts per million, which it probably is.
Yeah.
Delayed harvest, automatic. Yeah.
Well, I tell you,
Okay.
this was really, really informative. I want to thank you
It's
for
fun.
doing this
I
for
enjoy
us. And guys, you know, I really like doing this, but this water is like bubbling in the background right here, and it's calling me to say, let's go catch
One
it.
last thing.
Okay.
We understand, remember we talked about it would be hard for Jeff to carry all this chemistry along while fishing. So a simple way to basically look at this, if you're a fisherman and you're carrying a thermometer and you understand that temperature gradient, and you turn over some rocks and you're seeing these aquatic insects that are in quality water, then bingo, it tells you we have what we've just showed here from a chemistry viewpoint of what a quality trout stream is.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
And you
as I just tried to tell you and cut you off on, because I'm being called to the river.
Let's go fishing.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, that's